Hey everybody, welcome to Northwoods Engineered. Today I'm going to be showing you two different Cultipackers that I recently built. One of them features a fully welded frame with tires and a flip over style hitch so that you can tow it to where you're going on tires rather than the roller. The other one is much simpler. It's got a conduit frame and is bolted together with maker pipe connectors. Both Cultipackers have double wall culvert filled with concrete as the roller itself. Keep watching the video. I'll show you exactly how I built each one and how they work at the end of the video. Check the description below for some links to helpful parts and a link to my website. Speaking of my website, that's where you will find this unique new t-shirt that I designed myself and I believe is the only t-shirt in existence with a Cultipacker on it. You will also find this shirt, which looks very similar but features a crimper on it. So head to my website to find those. Thanks for watching the video today. Click subscribe if you want to see more of my videos in the future, and keep watching for more info on these packers. So a quick overview of the different rollers. This one with the conduit frame, like I mentioned, has maker pipe connectors. You'll find a link for those in the description as well. It's 1-inch EMT conduit. The tongue, I just cut a slot on the end and drilled a hole and use a clevis pin. It still has pillow block bearings for the roller, and it's real easy to move by hand and could be useful if you don't have to tow it long distances to where you're going to use it, and it's just much cheaper than this option and simpler if you don't have a welder. This one is a little more heavy duty. It's longer. I made this one 5 feet versus that one's 4 feet. As I mentioned, it's got the tires on it, so right now it's on the tires, so the roller is in the air. If you want to use it, you undo it from the wheeler, take this hitch pin out, you just flip the hitch over, and then it goes onto the roller side. It has the same pillow block bearings as the other one, but like I mentioned, has the fully welded frame, so it's a little more complicated to make. So up next, I'll go through the way that I made both of these rollers. For the welded steel portion of this project, I was able to find some cheaper tube steel on Craigslist that I got in some longer lengths. So I started by cutting them to length with a grinder. I have a portaband, but it wasn't working that well. The blade I had wasn't very sharp. After that, took it over to the drill press and marked out and drilled all the holes that I needed for both the side and the tongue pieces. After that, I don't have a welder at my house, so I gave the parts to my friend Jared, and he was kind enough to weld them together for me. So we took them over to his shop and welded up 2 of the steel frames, and they ended up looking really nice. After I got them back from Jared, I cleaned them up and put a coat of primer on them, and then followed by a coat of orange paint, similar to all the other implements that I've made, that I've shown on this channel. After the paint dried, it was time for assembly, so I put on the ball coupler on the tongue. After I got done with that, I moved on to the other Cultipacker that I was making out of the conduit. So like I mentioned before, I'll be making the other one out of 1-inch conduit pipe, and I'll be using maker pipe connectors. I'm utilizing the 3D printed drill jig that I print and I actually sell on my website, so check that out in the comments. I just use my portaband to cut the tongue connection point on this part so that there's no special add-on to connect it to your lawnmower or four-wheeler. After that, I started assembling with the maker pipe connectors. They go together really easily. They've got sizes for 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch, and even one, I think it's like 1 3/8, basically the size of the top rail on a chain link fence. I accidentally forgot to record the second half of the assembly, so here you go. It's all assembled and ready for the next step. Back to the welded steel version. Just gonna throw the tires on. I got some airless, never flat tires for this project. After I got done with the frames, I started working on the Cultipacker roller itself. So I'm cutting out some wood circles out of treated plywood to fill in the ends of the culvert once I get the concrete in there. To those wood circles, I screwed on a piece of treated 2x4, which I'll drill a hole through and run the axle through. And for the axle, I just use a piece of 1 inch ERW electric round welded tubing. And by putting those pieces of 2x4 on that plywood, it gives me something a little more, heavy to drill into from the sides of the culvert here, rather than trying to drill into a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. To get ready for filling the culverts with concrete, I built a little stand just out of some scrap wood that I had around in order to hold it up. As you can see, I had the bottom piece of plywood screwed into the culvert and then inserted the axle and put it in the frame. After that, I mixed up some concrete. I didn't get anything special here, just normal quick mix ready-crete. For the welded steel version, that's 5 feet long, it took just under 4 bags of concrete, 60-pound bags. For the shorter version, it took about 3. Once I had it filled with concrete, I pounded on the other round piece of plywood and screwed that into the 2x4 that's connected to the plywood. I waited a couple days for the concrete to dry, and then they were ready to connect to the frames. First up, I'm doing the conduit frame with the 4-foot roller. I bought some pillow block bearings off of Amazon. I'll have a link to those in the description below. I drilled 1/2 inch holes in the conduit so that I can bolt them to the frame. The 1 inch maker pipe connectors come with pre-drilled holes so that you can add self-tapping screws or bolts to strengthen the connections. After I did the conduit frame, I moved on to the welded frame. And I got it on there and they were all ready to go. All right, we are at my house on a little test spot that I have that I'm gonna plant some food plot seed, some comeback kid from Domain. And we'll be doing the first test. We're gonna use the small Cultipacker, the one with the conduit frame, and we're gonna pull it behind my lawnmower. So I just tilled this up just with my hand tiller and I just seeded it. It's a little damp, so I'm worried that it's gonna get caught in the culvert, the rings on the culvert, but we'll see how it works. Well, as expected, the Cultipacker kind of filled up with mud because this ground is super wet, but I don't really have time to wait till it dries and there's more rain in the future. So I want to get it packed, but it still packs the ground pretty nice. And I still think it's gonna have a good seed bed and everything should grow pretty well. So we'll come back in a couple weeks and see how it looks. All right, I am at one of my food plots. We've prepped it, we fertilized it, we seeded it. We used some domain seed for the first time this year. And I've got the Cultipacker on, and we're finally gonna use it at the food plot. One thing I also wanted to say was shout out to my friend Dwayne at Mountain Buck YouTube channel. If you watch my channel, there's a good chance you've seen him. We swapped some shirts, trying to give some shout outs for each other, so check his page out. He's got some good content as well. So we're gonna Cultipack now and we'll see how it works. And there we go. Cultipacking is done. We're really happy with the way this food plot turned out. Probably one of the best prepped food plots I've done in a long time. It wasn't perfectly smooth, but pretty good for just using a disc and an old box spring to smooth it out. But that Cultipacker worked really nicely. It didn't plug up too bad. The ground's not super wet. But I'm really excited with how this one's gonna turn out.